Welcome back to our lovely low budget podcast, Your Mother Ate My Dog, recorded in a giant lair that we only got to by jumping into our changing coffins, which transforms us into any disguise that we want, as long as we only want to have a third hand on top of our head and to be decked out in a weird metal costume that is hard to see because the film quality is so bad. Confused? Well, then you never watched the 1985 classic that we both just heard about 2 days ago. Dr. Otto and the Riddle of the Gloom Beam. Jesse, tell me how much you loved it.
Well, I gotta say, it brought back some nostalgic feelings, mainly because I grew up watching Ernest. Mostly Ernest Goes to Jail. I watched that movie a lot. I think it was because it's one of the few movies that I owned as a kid. And so as soon as I saw Ernest on screen, it brought back some good memories. Although Ernest was not actually in the movie for very long, but although he was in it.
This certainly was not an earnest movie.
No, no. Not the classic movie that we all know. One of, what, like 10 movies that he ended up doing or something like that. It's a lot.
After his death, they released a DVD box set with all the Ernest movies, and this one was in it, apparently. So
Oh, they counted it. It's in the canon.
it's, yeah, it's the very first one.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it only counts because of the beginning where he was talking to Vern and the
Yes.
ending.
Yes.
There's so much to like about this movie. Just start,
Okay,
I
you go
guess.
for it. Yeah, do it.
The humor. You may not agree with this, but I haven't watched an Ernest movie in so long, so I can't actually remember like what the tone, like what kind of humor they use.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if this was similar to it, but there was a lot of like funny dialogue. I don't normally laugh at things, but I found myself chuckling at parts.
Mm-hmm.
Like this doofus Lance, he came off like a kind of like a reject Monty Python character. Like he was always in. It's like he was doing a Monty Python sketch the whole time.
Right.
I could have just been tired. I watched it after a long day of work,
Yes.
but he was great. And then obviously the slave Willie, the slave in quotations because it's 2022 and we can't say that word anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But he was just a robot, a servant, if you will, with a changing smiley face bucket head, which was great. I loved the scene with him and Auntie Nelda, played by Jim Varney, where he was the chef and he said something funny about the bouillabaisse needing more time to marinate.
Yep.
Loved it.
So this one really did it for you, huh?
I don't know why I thought I was like, I guess it's just the kind of humor that I like.
Yeah.
Like it's dry-ish
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
and just sarcastic. Like the one character with Lance, Doris, she
Mm-hmm.
like all she said was sarcastic things.
That is true.
I didn't find her very funny, but
No. But I can see how this does play to your humor style. Does make sense to me.
I was probably just tired. But yeah, no, it was
Maybe I did. I did. I will say the scene that stood out to me most, which I got to say, this was kind of like a bunch of short segments, like put together almost.
mhm.
Like the plot was barely even. Well, anyway, the best part was with Auntie Nelda, which was also struck a bit of a nostalgic part because that's a character that he plays in other Ernest movies. Like Ernest Goes to Jail, Auntie Nelda is in that.
It's the same name though.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, it's just like one of his characters. But yeah, I thought that was like the funniest one, and I liked like the kitchen aesthetic, like how it was kind of gross and full of skeletons and yeah, how he was how the robot. What's the robot's name again?
I believe it's Willie. He has
Willie.
a
That's
last
right.
name too, but I can't remember what that is.
Yeah, yeah, he was good in that too. So yeah, that was definitely the best part for me. I might have been biased because I also grew up with that character as well, and I really do wish Ernest was in this more because I don't know, like I just love that character. and like it's instantly like heartwarming when I saw him originally at the very beginning of the film, and then he was also very briefly at the end. But yeah, which I'm curious, which of the Ernest movies have you seen
Um,
prior to this?
I've seen Ernest Scared Stupid, the one
Mm-hmm.
that I wanted to watch originally.
Yeah,
Um, and I've seen, does he go back to school or something?
yeah, he does.
Uh, that one. I've seen like bits and pieces of many of them. I can't remember exactly which ones because it was so long ago.
Right,
Like this was school aged. This was Josh isn't even 10 years old yet.
right.
And I remember where Jim Barney, like where I was when I heard Jim Barney died
Mm-hmm.
back in the year 2000.
Yeah,
So that's how big of a, I was 9 years old. That's how big of an Ernest fan I was.
yeah. He was kind of like a whole. He was like a cultural phenomenon. Like a lot of people knew who Ernest was.
Especially at that age, like you said, you probably watched the movie so much because you
Yeah,
had
yeah,
that VHS. The
yeah,
same, like I probably had a few. I probably had one, and my mom was like, "Oh, you like this, so let's rent you another one." Because
yeah.
rental was a thing.
I remember definitely seeing parts of them on like cable as well. I do know some of the movies. Again, I don't know the exact amount of how many he did, but it's around 10. I know some of them are actually like were put out by Disney. I think 4 of them were Disney movies, which is a fun little fact.
I
And
mean, we could definitely count them.
Ernest Goes to Jail is definitely one of the Disney ones. I think in the Ernest canon, Ernest Goes to Jail is usually regarded as the best one. But
Like, he was originally a commercial actor.
yeah, he did commercials, and his he played the character of Ernest in those commercials, and people loved him so much that it just like started a whole career beyond just commercials.
It's weird that he went from commercials to Dr. Otto in the Riddle of the Gloom Beam.
Yeah, that is a
That's
weird.
a weird movie to start out with. Okay, here I'm gonna
Yeah, I guess it just had to sort of like work out the kinks and get to more of
s-
like a franchise sort of thing.
slam dunk Ernest. That's the one that I remember the most.
Yep, yeah, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is in that movie.
Yeah, direct to video, but
Yes.
I watched that one the
Yeah.
most of anybody, most of any movie.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if okay, so there's Dr. Otto and the Riddle of the Gloom Beam, 1985. 1987, Ernest Goes to Camp, which is, I guess, his first actual movie
Yep.
that would have had a theatrical release.
Mm-hmm.
The next year, 88, Ernest Saves Christmas,
Mm-hmm.
and then 1990, Ernest Goes to Jail, followed by Ernest Scared Stupid in 91. This guy works a lot.
Yes, he did.
So, right, counting Dr. Otto, that's five. And then
Mm-hmm.
there's Ernest Rides Again,
Mm-hmm.
um, Ernest Goes to School,
Mm-hmm.
Slam Dunk Ernest,
Yep.
Ernest Goes to Africa,
Yeah.
and then Ernest in the Army in 98, which was the last one.
Okay, so what is that? 9,
One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10,
10. Okay,
as you said. And there was a TV special in 1988 as well.
that makes sense. Yeah, he was like a huge thing. No, that doesn't surprise me they made that many.
They
I
were
mean,
gonna make, they were in the process of making another one, but he died beforehand. It
uh,
was called Ernest the Pirate.
oh, maybe he would have brought back that. There was a pirate character he played in this movie that we watched.
Yeah, the one-eyed pirate.
Yeah, I can't
Which
really, I can't really attest to the frequency of these characters appearing in the other movies because I haven't seen most of them.
I
I
would
just,
assume they did not.
yeah,
Nelda was like probably like the boss of the secondary characters. Like
right,
she seemed to be in charge, so
yeah,
maybe
yeah,
that's why.
yeah.
Um, that brings me to the second thing
Mm-hmm.
I liked about this movie, which was the riddle. The
Oh
movie
yeah,
called Dr. Otto and the Riddle of the Gloom Beam. I I thought at the beginning when we heard the riddle for the first time that it was lame because it was hard to understand.
Yes.
with that thick accent he was
Yes.
putting on.
Yeah.
But and then he somehow got it on TV, and he somehow got it on that arcade game.
Yep.
But they used the riddle to help guide Lance through the story
Yep. That's true.
to get to the other Jim Varney characters.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, that was kind of cool
It was an
that it
interesting idea. Yeah.
wasn't just like a throwaway thing.
Right.
Um, and then you get to the like the one-eyed pirate,
Yeah.
other things in the riddle, like the Bula base, and you're like, oh, okay, okay, we're getting somewhere. There's thought behind
Yeah.
this weird movie.
Yeah. It was like that was one a good thing to like keep the story connected together between all these little parts. But it was like it did kind of lose sight of itself sometimes, especially like when he would turn into different characters, and then all of a sudden he like seemed to forget that he was trying to kill Vance. Is it Vance? Yeah. Oh,
Lance
Lance. Sorry.
with an L. Yeah, Ardell.
Yes. Um, yeah, but I mean, it's just a comedy. I mean, it's not really, I guess, supposed to be all that advanced with its plot. I suppose
Advance and Lance.
advanced in Lance.
Nice. No, I don't think this was supposed to be a serious film. Uh, this isn't one for the Hall of Fame. I don't
No,
think that's where they're going for.
no, that is true.
Is there any other positive things you took away from this 92-minute masterpiece?
Um, yeah. mm, I did like that monster, the dump. I thought that was kind of fun. I
Yeah,
thought that was kind of funny. I was ho-
yeah,
well, it did. It was also. It reminded me of. I guess it was also part of your intention was us going back and watching those '80s VHS movies back when we lived together. It did have sort of that feel. I was and but we used to watch a lot of horror movies, and I was hoping from. That's why I liked the Auntie Nelda scene so much because it was a bit more gruesome. I liked that part. I was hoping there'd be more. I guess I was hoping there'd be more like violence. I guess it was somewhat violent, but it was toned down, if you will.
Well, I have a fun fact about that.
Okay.
That they actually like wrote and filmed most of the movie for it to be geared towards children.
Okay.
So they had a screening, brought a bunch of kids down,
Yeah.
and the director realized that the children weren't really understanding the complex humor. It was kind of a little too over their head. So he ended up changing some stuff, making it a little more darker for teenagers to enjoy.
Okay.
So, yes, I guess because Ernest was kind of a children's commercial guy,
Yes. Yes, he
very,
was.
very British G.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I don't know why anybody would think that the Dr. Otto character was for children. I mean, okay, so I don't know if they added like his parents not wanting him, the failed abortion afterwards, because that
Yeah.
would have been like a weird children's thing. Like
Yeah.
my my parents didn't love me, but yeah,
Yeah. That.
so
I guess that part was pretty dark.
yeah,
That's true.
it must have been added
Yeah.
after the
Yeah.
fact.
Yeah. It's not very children uh,
No.
oriented.
Okay, well, is there anything that you thought that maybe this film could improve on for next time?
Gee, that's kind of tough. There's kind of a lot there that
Yeah.
it could be fixed, I guess. I thought the humor worked pretty good for what type of film it was. And I thought that the characters that Jim Varney played, I would say worked about half of the time. They worked really well. And then the other times, it wasn't as great. It wasn't like at his peak. What I've seen him at his peak is much better than what I saw here. And some of the side characters were like, especially Lance's partner, Denise. Is that what it was?
Doris.
Doris. Yeah. Uh, yeah. She didn't really add all that much, and yeah, and it was also weird. Like Lance and Doris, like they kept getting lost, and then I don't know. The plot was a little weird and not so coherent, and sometimes the humor fell flat, but it did work sometimes. I don't know. It's hard. It's a little hard to pinpoint exactly what was the main thing wrong with this film. What do you think?
Maybe I thought the humor was good in this compared to other VHS sci-fi horror movies we've seen before.
Hmm.
Like it's not funny.
Right.
Why is Cincinnati the first place that he targets for like
Yeah,
his world domination?
I didn't get that joke, to be honest.
They made a Super Bowl joke in there as well, which is interesting because Cincinnati lost the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah, that did make me think of that. I thought that was kind of funny.
The premise of the movie, maybe it's a little too outer spacey. A random gloom beam that somehow knocks out the world's finance for some reason. And did like how does Dr. Otto benefit from people losing all that money?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just an evil guy, I guess. Yeah, like the plot just like it just felt like the plot was there as a way to show off Jim Varney doing his characters. And
Right,
it's just
yeah.
they didn't put very much thought into it.
There was also no protagonist in the movie. I guess Lance was supposed to be, but
Hmm.
he wasn't a very endearing character, and I didn't I didn't want him to succeed, if I'm being frank.
Right.
I would have been happy if he had his head decapitated. And Doris was just too serious.
Yeah. Yeah, like her seriousness didn't really like make the movie funnier.
It might
I
have
didn't
made Lance funnier,
I
but
guess so, yeah.
there was I was just too antagonist because they set him up as being like this spoiled rich kid.
Hmm.
Another thing I liked though was how when they showed him as a 10-year-old, it was just him.
Same as a normal 30-year-old.
Yeah, same with Jim Barney and Dr. Otto get up, but
That was pretty funny. I did also really like Baby Otto.
yeah.
I thought that was kind of pretty frightening but funny. Just the ridiculousness of Otto just like blowing his parents up with a bomb like on Christmas.
Well,
I
I'm
thought that
happy
was
he did it. They were terrible people.
That's true.
But like you said, there you could probably go scene by scene and find something wrong with it. But I think
Yep.
that's the point of this, the VHS 1985 low budget thing is that that's what you want. You don't want a perfect movie.
Yeah. No, no, I see that. Now it was like I do wish they just put a little bit more thought into the plot, I guess. But it was a good vehicle for Jim Varney to show off his his characters and his knack for comedy because he is really quite a funny guy.
Until the cancer got him.
Yes. Then not so funny anymore.
He's been dead for 22 years. That's insane. Okay. So I don't remember where I was going with this, but and I have another fun fact.
Okay. Hit me
Um,
with it.
the second of two fun facts. This film was released in London and Japan as well, but it was under the
Oh,
title of Never Get Poop on Your Shoes, which is
what?
something that Dr. Otto said at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, I guess that's
For some reason,
true.
I can't remember why. But it was actually a more successful film overseas than it was in America.
Oh.
$800,000 budget, which,
Mm.
and I guess for an 85, like the blowing up of the layer thing, and
Yeah.
like it wasn't terrible. It like the you couldn't really see anything that was going on, which could have.
Uh,
I don't think it actually was had anything to do with the YouTube that we were watching,
yeah.
the video on YouTube. I think I read that it was just bad quality
Right.
all around. 85, so makes
I
sense.
did actually think the effects were actually not. It never took me out of it at any point. It was like the effects were fine. I thought, and also I really liked the music that was always playing when we were like in Otto's lair.
Yes.
I thought that
Yep.
was pretty good too.
I don't know if this movie passed the Bechdel test though. Um, I don't recall. Well, actually, the Doris and oh yeah, there was that scene with the blonde girl and
Yeah.
the chicken and the door.
Yeah.
They must have talked about something other than Lance.
They
It
may
was
have.
just a lot of weird like, and then I was thinking who comes up with these things?
That chicken in the door thing was odd.
Yeah, one of many
That was
odd
very odd.
things.
That was one of the moments most of all where I'm like, what? It made no sense. And I was like, why a door? And why chickens pecking at the string? It didn't make any sense to me. Maybe it's some joke that went over my head.
It's a trap. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, well, some good, some bad.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna let you know that my score for this movie was higher than The Haunting. Two different
Yeah.
films, though.
They are two different types of films, that's for sure. I yeah, I will say it was pretty close for me, which is weird to say, but yeah, they were close.
Okay, well, originality. I mean, how can this movie not be high for originality?
That is true. I've haven't seen anything quite like it. I guess if the general plot is an evil guy wants to destroy the world. So that I guess that part isn't all that original. But everything surrounding that is pretty original. And so
Yeah.
for, I would say I'm way up at like an 8.
I did an 8.5,
Mm-hmm.
but like you said, Crazy Man in Large House wants to destroy the world isn't original or creative, but the financial institution thing, like that's kind of unique for 1985.
Yeah.
And then like just whatever that fever dream was, that was the rest of the 92 minutes.
Yeah. I got to say that it reminds me of that scene where all those businessmen are like talking about what's happening. And for some reason, he's like, "Let me demonstrate it to you." And he like puts a I don't know what that was, a cork or something going into a bed of mouse traps, like
Hmm.
to prove his point or something. That was another moment. I'm like, that's so weird, but it was funny actually. I
Uh,
guess it was this whole movie is just riddled with really like it's like what really
yeah,
weird
like
moments.
how do they come up with this kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Um, the ending I gave a 6, because like the actual ending wasn't anything special.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they got away from the clutches of evil Dr. Otto, blew up the lair by pressing the wrong button, which was the last of the Riddle
Yep.
things.
Yep.
But then we get that last scene at the gas station
Right.
with the big Ernest reveal. You know, they have the Lance, the two girls pushing Lance to the gas station. Oh, all the gas is gone from everywhere. Maybe this station will have gas. And then we get the big Ernest reveal that he has a third hand under his hat,
Yep.
which could open this up to a sequel. But
There's still a chance.
he died 22 years ago. So,
Oh, right, that thing. Yeah.
but they're, I mean, they CGI'd Carrie Fisher into
Star Wars.
this Star Wars. So
That is true.
I'm sure there's still like cutting room floor footage from this movie that they could use, or I guess any. Well, no, they'd have to use this movie because of Dr. Otto. But
Yeah.
6 for ending.
Yeah, I'd be. I mean, I was just happy Ernest was in it again. Classic Ernest, and it really is. I do have that nostalgic bias. It just it was just nice seeing him again. So I'm thinking I'm right with you. A 6.
And he said the line too.
He did.
Know what I mean, Burn? He didn't say Burn, but
No, he didn't say Vern, but
he did at the beginning of the movie. But
he did. He said Vern many times.
yeah, we saw Vern's hand too. Okay. Uh, so expectation is kind of a weird one.
Yeah, for me, as soon as you suggested that movie, I was not excited. I just assumed that it was going to suck. I mean, they're just sort of getting the whole Ernest thing down. trying to get him into a feature length film. And I knew that he turned out to be pretty great, but I wasn't sure it was going to work in these early stages of his career. But it was better than I thought it was going to be. Not a masterpiece by any means, but it was fun. I didn't after watching it, I wasn't like disappointed or anything like that. So I think I'd be maybe at like a 7.
Great score. I picked a 7 as well.
Hmm.
I mean, it's a low budget VHS sci-fi movie from the
Mm-hmm.
80s.
Mm-hmm.
Makes absolutely no sense. Taking Ernest out of it, I think, I mean, it was as good of a bad movie as maybe we've seen.
That is true. We have seen a lot of bad movies, and maybe we are a little more forgiving given the fact how many just terrible movies we have seen.
Like,
It
I don't know how bad this movie would have had to be for me to give it such a negative score with that expectation. So maybe I don't know, seven's a fine. It's no God told me to.
I was just about to say that. I was just about to say, well, it isn't for you. God told me to. Although I like that movie much better than you, but that was
I
a
was
weird
thinking
one.
about we should rewatch that, but maybe it's maybe 10 years is too soon. Acting, I'll I'll start because you seem to be a really big Jim Varney fan.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I gave it a 5.
Okay.
Jim Varney killed it, obviously. The guy who played Lance was decent. Everybody else, not so great.
Right.
Um, so like a 5 right down the middle. Jim Varney was almost every character, but
Mm-hmm.
some of his characters were hit and miss as well.
Yeah.
Like the pirate, the rich dude.
Yeah.
Um, 5 I think is fair.
Yeah. Again, Jim Varney was definitely the highlight, and I mean, I really do think his comedic chops come out mostly through Ernest, who wasn't in this very much. And the character of Dr. Otto, while weird and like interesting, like wasn't himself all that funny. I did like the um,
Nelda.
anti Nelda scenes quite a bit. So it didn't quite show off Jim Varney as much as I would have liked. And yeah, all the other performances were pretty forgettable. Lance had his moments though for sure. So I think I'm right there with you. A 5.
Final score for this one at 10. I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I want to take into account that it's low budget, and yeah, it's I don't want to be too harsh on it, but I also don't want to just give it points just for the heck of it. Uh, it wasn't great. It definitely had its moments, though. I think I'm going to be at a 4.
Okay. I think the scale for a movie like this has to be different than, say, a Haunting or a
Mm-hmm.
Green Lantern, like more of a mainstream Hollywood film. I gave it a 7.5
Oh,
out of 10, which is on, so I don't know. I don't know how this would work, but a 7.5 Dr. Otto and the Riddle of the Gloom Beam maybe isn't as good as, say, like a 5 out of 10 Green Lantern or a 5 out of 10 Code 8. It was just I'm rating this on like how much I enjoyed myself mostly. The
right,
movie kind of comes secondary.
right.
So if there's anybody out there on Instagram who has a problem with that, watch the movie. It's good.
Yeah, well, yeah. Watch it for yourself, and you be the judge. I'm sure most people have not heard of this movie.
No, and that's why I wanted to say it as many times as I could last episode, so that when people see Dr. Otto in the Riddle of the Gloom Beam, they aren't like, what's going on? It's on YouTube for free. It is quite long though. 92
It
minutes.
it is kind of long for what it is. That is true.
But 7.5, really good. 4, that's fair. If you're going on a different scale,
I
you're right.
guess. I mean, I tried to put myself in that, bad movie sort of train of thought, but I don't know.
I really don't have like no thought process goes into my scoring really. It's just kind of how I'm feeling at the time. So if I like a movie, it's going to be higher.
Right.
even if it really wasn't that great.
Right. I mean, if you enjoyed yourself, a 7.5 makes perfect sense.
Yeah, have to pay for it. It's great.
It was free. Totally.
Just like the next movie will be free. If, well, actually, only if you pay for a Netflix subscription. Then never mind, it's not free.
It is on Netflix. That I know for sure. And
I
it's
scrolled past it today.
did you? It's a movie I have always wanted to watch. And what greater time than for this podcast?
Like, why even have a podcast if you're not going to watch movies that you want to watch?
There you go. Exactly. Like Dr. Otto in the Riddle of the Gloom Beam.
Are you going to tease it a little bit? Are you going to just say what it is?
I'm not going to
Or are
outright
you not
say
going
what
to?
it is. No.
Okay.
No, not like you did. Because this movie is much more well known. I will say there's a few actors in it that I really like, and I'm excited to see their performances. I'll give one of them, and that's Willem Dafoe, who's I really liked him in Spider-Man, and also I really liked him in A Life Aquatic. He's good in that one too, and I'm excited to see. I've heard good things about his performance in this, so he's one of the actors I kind of want to like watch all of his movies.
He does have a face for this type of movie.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can't wait.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think is as we continue this podcast and build up our base, this kind of movie, Dr. Otto and the Riddle of the Gloom Beam, might be more of like a bonus episode kind of thing.
I was thinking that like a mini-sode, mini
Yeah,
episode.
even though this is already going to
It's going to be
be
like the same
just as
length.
long. I
Yeah.
mean, I had more fun talking about this movie, movies like this, than I do movies that I don't like.
Yep.
So, yeah, because like if not that we're gonna do this, but if we have like a Patreon
Mm-hmm.
bonus episode,
Right.
these VHS movies that we somehow find in the wild and can watch and talk about
Yeah.
with our
I,
niche audience.
I must say, if you are listening to us on, say, Spotify or any place where you can like rate a podcast, go ahead and give us a rating and make it as honest as you can. Yeah, we appreciate the feedback. I just noticed that yeah, it's like on some platforms, like you only get to see what everyone's rating is once a certain amount of people have given it a rating, and so we haven't quite gotten to that level on some of our platforms. So I'm curious.
I think the last time I checked, there were two ratings on Spotify, and they both came from inside my house, and I
Yeah.
was very honest,
Oh, were you?
very.
It wasn't before we even had an episode.
No, we have some things to work on for sure.
Yeah, I know I gave it a rating, obviously, but yes, that would be cool. Or even on Instagram because we got a decent amount of followers over there now. So I'm always happy to hear what people think.
Well, on that note, what a good episode. What a good movie. Jim Varney, may he rest in peace. I'm gonna have to watch an Ernest movie now, just on my own time.
You got to watch Ernest Goes to Jail. It's hilarious. I just watched after I
Probably,
watched this movie. I watched like a scene of it on YouTube and totally holds up.
maybe we'll just have to watch all 10. Just a little Ernest marathon.
That sounds like quite the
It's
task.
like people who do the Harry Potter ones.
Right. I mean, I've watched the Harry
Part two.
Potter ones like probably 8 or 9 times.
Well, Ernest, 8 or 9 times.
Yeah, that sounds like something.
I may just be Ernest for Halloween. See who
It's
notices.
an easy costume.
Yeah, it's cold though.
That's true.
It's October, so okay.
Oh,
Well, do you have any final thoughts before we wrap this up?
um, no.
Okay.
All right.
Well, thank you so much, everybody, for listening. If you got this far, you should definitely watch Dr. Otto and the Gloom Beam, or even just Ernest, any Ernest movie, and send us a picture
Yeah.
of you watching Ernest.
Yeah. Send us a picture of you watching Ernest.
Why not?
Why not?
Okay, well,
Okay,
bye.
bye bye.